Innovations in manufacturing, putting out system to the factory model. Before the Industrial Revolution, domestic, putting out system. The domestic system, also called the putting out system, was a production system that was widespread in the 17th century Western Europe, in which merchant employers pull out materials like cotton to rural producers who usually worked in their homes producing goods like clothing. Workers returned finished products to the employers and were paid for each finished product they produced. The business owners bought the raw materials like cotton and then sold the finished products. So they only paid workers for their labor. The advantages to the merchant employer were the lower wage costs and increased efficiency due to a more extensive division of labor. Division of labor is the separation of steps in the process of making something into different jobs. For example, the merchants were in charge of getting cotton, and the rural workers were responsible for turning the cotton into yarn. Merchant buys raw wool from sheep raiser. Merchant takes wool to farm families, women and children, clean, sort, spin into yarn. Merchant takes yarn to weaver with hand loom. Merchant takes fabric to fuller for cleaning and shaping. Merchant takes fabric to dyer to add color. Merchant takes fabric to market. Watch the video about the factory system. Industrial innovation, factory system. Merchant buys raw wool from sheep raiser and sells to factory. Carding machines comb the raw wool, and Samuel Crompton's spinning machine, called the mule, is powered by water and spins thread. Edmund Cartwright's automatic power loom weaves thread into cloth. Ink rollers are used to add designs to fabric. Fabric is shipped to markets. The factory system of manufacturing that began in the early 18th century was based on 1. Requiring workers to come to one place, a factory, to produce goods. 2. Division of labor, separating the steps of making something into separate jobs. 3. Keeping the cost of making something as low as possible. 4. Mass production, making a lot of the same good. The factory system replaced the domestic system, in which the individual workers used hand tools or simple machinery to make goods in their own homes or in workshops attached to their homes. The use of water power and then the steam engine to mechanize processes such as cloth weaving in England in the second half of the 18th century marked the beginning of the factory system. This system was enhanced at the end of the 18th century by the introduction of interchangeable parts in the manufacture of muskets, a type of gun, and subsequently other types of goods. Prior to this, each part of a musket or anything else assembled from multiple components had been individually shaped by a workman to fit with the other parts. In the new system, the musket parts were machined to such precise specifications that a part of any musket could be replaced by the same part from any other musket of the same design. This advance signaled the start of mass production, in which standardized parts could be assembled by relatively unskilled workmen into complete finished products. The resulting system in which work was organized to utilize power-driven machinery and produce goods on a large scale, had important social consequences. Formerly, workers had been independent craftsmen who owned their own tools and designated their own working hours. But in the factory system, the employer owned the tools and raw materials and set the hours and other conditions under which the workers labored. The location of work also changed. Whereas many workers had inhabited rural areas under the domestic system, the factory system concentrated workers in cities and towns because the new factories had to be located near water power and transportation, alongside waterways, roads, or railways. Moreover, many of the new unskilled jobs could be performed equally well by women, men, or children, thus tending to drive down factory wages. Factories tended to be poorly lit, cluttered, and unsafe places where workers put in long hours for low pay.